For my 31st birthday, my mother-in-law gifted me divorce papers. From all of us, she announced at the restaurant. My husband recorded my reaction for their entertainment. I thanked her, signed them immediately, and walked out. She had no idea what had I already done. 3 days before my birthday, I caught Margaret at our kitchen table with legal documents spread in front of her. When she saw me, she quickly gathered the papers and slipped them into a birthday envelope. "Just some family paperwork," she said with a strange smile. I assumed it was maybe property documents or insurance papers David needed to sign. The decorated envelope looked so festive and innocent. That morning, I'd come downstairs early to make coffee before my shift at Romano's restaurant. The house was quiet, and I expected to find the kitchen empty. Instead, Margaret sat hunched over official-looking papers, reading glasses perched on her nose as she examined each page carefully. Her concentration was intense, almost predatory, as she made notes in the margins with a red pen. The sound of my footsteps on the hardwood floor made her look up sharply. For a split second, her face showed something I'd never seen before. Not just disapproval or disappointment, but actual satisfaction. The first real family event after our honeymoon was Michael's graduation party, David's cousin who'd just finished law school. I remember standing in front of my closet for nearly an hour that morning, pulling out outfit after outfit, trying to find something that would help me blend in with David's successful family. I finally settled on a simple black dress with pearl earrings, hoping conservative choices would earn me points with Margaret. The moment we arrived at the country club, I knew I'd miscalculated. The other women wore designer labels and carried handbags that cost more than my monthly rent. Margaret greeted us at the entrance with air kisses that never actually touched my cheeks. Her perfume expensive and overpowering. She immediately steered me toward a circle of relatives I'd only met once at our wedding, her hand firm on my elbow like I might escape if she loosened her grip. "This is David's wife," she announced to the well-dressed women gathered near the champagne fountain. "She works in the service industry." The way she said those last 3 words made them sound like a diagnosis rather than a profession. I watched the women's faces change as they processed this information. Aunt Patricia's eyebrows lifted in that universal expression of polite surprise, mixed with pity. Cousin Janet made a sympathetic sound in the back of her throat before asking what kind of service work I did, her tone suggesting she already knew the answer would disappoint her. Before I could explain that I was a server at Romano's, one of the best Italian restaurants in our area, Margaret jumped in with her own version of my employment status. "She's still exploring different career paths," Margaret explained smoothly, as if I was a confused teenager rather than a 29-year-old woman with steady employment and good tips, working temporarily in food service, while she figures out her direction. The conversation moved on without me as they discussed Michael's internship at a prestigious law firm, another cousin's promotion at a marketing company, and Emma's recent engagement to Dr. Patterson. When someone politely asked about my educational background, Margaret redirected so smoothly that I barely registered being erased from my own story until later that night. I excused myself to find the bathroom, needing a moment away from their suffocating judgment. In the hallway, I heard Margaret's voice floating through an open door. "We're hoping she'll find something more suitable soon," she was telling someone. "David deserves a wife who can contribute properly to their social position." The words hit me like ice water. I wasn't a person to Margaret. I was a problem that needed solving. Thanksgiving dinner 3 months later followed an even worse pattern. Margaret had invited extended family I barely knew, filling her dining room with successful professionals who all seemed to know each other's accomplishments intimately. As we went around the table sharing gratitude, she made sure to highlight everyone's achievements while completely skipping over me as if I wasn't seated right there. "I'm thankful for Emma's engagement to Dr. Patterson," Margaret said with genuine warmth in her voice, "and for David's expanding accounting practice. It's wonderful watching young people establish themselves professionally. When my turn finally came, I kept it simple and safe. I'm grateful for family and good health," I said quietly, avoiding any mention of my job that might trigger another lecture about my inadequate career choices. After dinner, Patricia cornered me in the kitchen under the pretense of helping with dishes. Dear Margaret just wants what's best for David, she said while scrubbing a serving platter. Have you thought about going back to school? So many opportunities exist for women willing to improve themselves. Her words carried the weight of family consensus, making it clear they'd all discussed my inadequacy behind my back and agreed on solutions. The morning after overhearing Margaret's devastating phone conversation about praying for David to leave me, I woke up with something I hadn't felt in months, pure determination mixed with anger. If she wanted me to become this perfect professional woman, I'd prove I could do it without her help or approval. I sat at my laptop before the sun came up, creating profiles on every job site I could find. My resume looked embarrassingly thin, spread across a single page. 3 years at Romano's restaurant, high school diploma, scattered customer service experience from part-time jobs during school. The sections where college degrees and professional accomplishments should have been sat empty and accusatory, making Margaret's voice echo in my head about real qualifications and proper preparation. I rewrote my job descriptions 5 different times, trying to make serving tables sound like executive experience without technically lying, managed multiple client relationships simultaneously while maintaining 95% satisfaction ratings, coordinated complex service delivery under high pressure, time-sensitive conditions. The words felt inflated and fake, but online articles promised strategic language could bridge experience gaps and get past automated screening systems. Cover letters became my obsession over the next week. I'd wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning to write personalized messages for administrative assistant positions, customer service roles, and entry-level office jobs across 3 counties. Each letter took over an hour to craft as I explained how my restaurant background had prepared me for professional challenges, highlighted my reliability and communication skills, and expressed genuine enthusiasm for opportunities to prove my worth. The first rejection email arrived within 3 hours of submitting my application to a dental office receptionist position. Thank you for your interest, but we're seeking candidates with medical office experience. The second rejection came from an insurance company before I'd even finished my morning coffee. We require applicants with college-level education for this role. By the end of that first brutal week, my inbox overflowed with polite dismissals that all delivered the same message in slightly different words. I wasn't qualified for anything beyond my current situation, and no amount of strategic resume writing would change that fundamental truth. David found me crying over my laptop one evening after a particularly crushing day of rejections. Maybe you're aiming too high too fast, he suggested, while rubbing my shoulders in a way that felt more obligatory than comforting. There's nothing wrong with starting smaller and working your way up gradually. His words echoed his mother's constant message that I should lower my expectations rather than raise my qualifications, and I felt something crack inside me. The interview at Henderson Insurance Company became my first real-world lesson in professional humiliation. The office building intimidated me from the moment I walked through the glass doors into the marble lobby. Women in sharp suits clicked across polished floors and expensive heels, carrying leather briefcases and speaking confidently into wireless headsets about quarterly projections and client portfolios. I felt underdressed despite wearing my best outfit and having practiced my answers for 2 days straight. Mrs. Henderson, the hiring manager, glanced at my resume for maybe 30 seconds before setting it aside like yesterday's newspaper. "Your background is quite limited for this position," she said, without bothering to hide her disappointment. "We typically hire candidates with insurance experience or business degrees. What made you think you'd be qualified for account management?" My carefully prepared answers about transferable skills and eagerness to learn fell completely flat in that sterile conference room. Mrs. Henderson actually checked her watch while I spoke, making it painfully clear that my time was being wasted along with hers. "Perhaps you should consider positions more aligned with your current skill set," she suggested, before ending the interview 15 minutes early. I registered for community college's evening business program in a desperate attempt to gain the credentials Margaret claimed I lacked. Introduction to business, basic accounting, and professional communication filled my schedule alongside my restaurant shifts. The tuition payment came from money I'd been saving for new furniture, but Margaret's voice in my head told me education was more important than comfort. My first night in class revealed how unprepared I was for academic challenges after years away from school. The other students were mostly working professionals seeking advancement or career changes, and they spoke confidently about their corporate experiences while I sat quietly taking notes and hoping no one would ask about my background. Over the next 6 months, I applied to 47 different positions across 4 counties. The rejections became routine, but never stopped stinging with fresh intensity. Some employers were kind in their dismissals, others brutally honest about my inadequacy, but the result was always identical. I wasn't good enough for the professional world that David's family inhabited so comfortably. Monday afternoon found me at the kitchen table surrounded by the evidence of another failed week. 47 rejections. Margaret's latest dismissive comment about community college not being real education. And David's growing impatience with our mounting expenses had left me questioning everything I'd been fighting for over the past year. The laundry basket sat beside me filled with clothes that represented my shrinking world. Work uniforms that smelled like garlic and tomato sauce, interview outfits that had brought nothing but disappointment and casual wear for staying home between desperate attempts to escape my situation. My phone buzzed with an unknown number while I folded David's work shirts, the domestic task feeling like surrender to Margaret's vision of my limited future. I usually ignored unfamiliar numbers because telemarketer calls had become so frequent. But something made me swipe to answer that day. Maybe I was hoping for a miracle, or maybe I was just tired of feeling disconnected from a world that kept rejecting me so thoroughly. "Hello, is this Jennifer speaking?" The woman's voice was professional, but genuinely warm with none of the hurried efficiency I'd grown to expect from business calls. She pronounced my name carefully, like it actually mattered. "This is Jessica Martinez from Grand Plaza Hotel's Human Resources Department. I hope I'm not calling it a bad time." My heart stopped completely as recognition hit me. Grand Plaza Hotel. I remembered submitting that application during a particularly desperate evening last February, 6 months ago, when winter rejection letters had piled up faster than I could process the disappointment. The application had been one of dozens I'd sent that week, cast into the void of online job boards with almost no hope of response. "We received your application for our guest services coordinator position," Jessica continued when I didn't immediately respond. "I was wondering if you're still interested in discussing opportunities with our team." Her words sounded impossible after 6 months of silence from every potential employer. Someone was actually calling me about a job, treating my application like it had value instead of filing it directly into rejection folders or ignoring it completely. I set down the shirt I'd been folding, my hands trembling slightly as I reached for a pen and the notepad we kept by the phone. "Yes, absolutely," I managed to say while trying to keep my voice steady and professional. "I'm very interested in learning more about the position and your team." Jessica's laugh was genuine and encouraging. Nothing like the polite dismissals I'd grown accustomed to hearing from hiring managers over the past year. "Wonderful," she said warmly. "I have to tell you, your restaurant experience really caught our attention during the review process. We've found that candidates with your background often excel in hospitality because you understand customer service from the ground up, not just from textbooks or corporate training programs." Her words felt revolutionary after a year of apologizing for my waitressing experience. Jessica explained that Grand Plaza Hotel specialized in creating exceptional guest experiences, and they valued employees who understood service excellence through practical application rather than just theoretical training. My years at Romanos weren't a liability to overcome or explain away. They were credentials that qualified me for advancement in ways Margaret had never imagined possible. "We offer comprehensive training programs for career development," Jessica continued, "including management track opportunities for employees who demonstrate leadership potential. Our benefits package includes health insurance, dental coverage, retirement planning with employer matching, and educational assistance for professional development courses. The benefits she described surpassed anything I'd imagined possible for someone with my background. The salary range is $42,000 to $48,000 annually, depending on experience and performance during training, Jessica added. My current income from Romanos barely reached $30,000, even with good tip nights and extra shifts. There's one more aspect that might interest you, Jessica said, her voice taking on an excited tone. The role includes housing in our employee residential building. It's a fully furnished apartment with utilities included, just 5 minutes from the hotel. I had to sit down. Free housing meant independence from David's family's constant criticism and financial pressure. 3 hours away from Margaret's disapproving presence felt like freedom I hadn't dared to dream about. Thursday evening arrived with golden light filtering through Romano's windows as I walked through the entrance with my family trailing behind me. The familiar bell chimed above the door, and the warm scent of garlic bread and marinara sauce wrapped around me like a welcoming embrace. Mr. Romano spotted us immediately from behind the counter, his weathered face breaking into the genuine smile I'd treasured during difficult months. "Jennifer," he called out while hurrying over to greet us. "This must be the birthday celebration you mentioned." I felt proud introducing my family to him, hoping Margaret would finally see the respect I'd earned in this place. Mr. Romano shook hands warmly with everyone, while Margaret surveyed the modest dining room with barely concealed judgment. The red vinyl booths and handwritten specials board clearly didn't meet her usual standards, but she was here, making an effort, and that felt like progress worth celebrating. We settled into the corner booth with Margaret examining the laminated menu like it might contaminate her manicured fingers. David kept checking his phone under the table, responding to texts with nervous excitement. Emma scrolled through her phone while exchanging meaningful looks with her mother across the table. Throughout dinner, Margaret asked questions about my community college classes with artificial interest, nodding along to my answers while clearly thinking about something else entirely. "You've been working so hard to improve yourself," she said as we waited for our main courses. "It's admirable how determined you've been despite all the challenges." The birthday cake appeared as we finished eating, carried by Sandra, who placed it carefully in front of me while the entire restaurant began singing. Regular customers joined in from nearby tables, creating a chorus of genuine affection that made my heart swell. "Make a wish," David said, positioning his phone to capture the moment. I closed my eyes and wished for courage to share my job offer news gracefully, hoping this announcement would finally bridge the gap between Margaret's expectations and my reality. Margaret's applause was sharp and hollow as she reached into her designer purse with theatrical ceremony. "We have a special gift for you," she announced loudly enough for nearby tables to hear. From all of us, the decorated envelope emerged, held high for everyone to see. Emma's phone appeared in her hands, positioned to record. David adjusted his camera angle to capture my face more clearly. Their coordination was perfect and rehearsed. "Open it," Margaret urged with bright eyes. I mistook for grandmotherly joy. The envelope felt heavier than expected as I tore the paper, revealing official documents folded inside. Petition for dissolution of marriage sat at the top in bold letters that seemed to grow larger as I stared. Divorce papers on my birthday in front of my coworkers. The restaurant buzzed around us, but our booth existed in a bubble of tension. Instead of tears, I signed my name with steady handwriting. Margaret's satisfied expression faltered as I calmly folded the papers. "Thank you," I said while standing. "This is actually the most generous gift you could have given me." I reached into my purse and withdrew my own envelope. I have some news to share as well. 3 days ago, I was offered a position as guest services coordinator at Grand Plaza Hotel. The salary is $45,000 annually with full benefits and housing included. The position starts in 2 weeks in another city. A fresh start with people who value restaurant experience. The restaurant erupted. Mr. Romano's voice boomed congratulations. Maria appeared in the kitchen window, beaming with pride. Tony started clapping enthusiastically. Regular customers stood to applaud. Mrs. Patterson raised her water glass in toast. Margaret's face cycled through confusion, disbelief, and something resembling fear. "You knew about this job when you signed those papers?" David asked with strained voice, finally understanding I'd outmaneuvered them completely. "I received the offer 3 days ago," I confirmed. "The same day you all started acting mysteriously excited about my birthday plans. Their video recording had captured their own failure instead of my humiliation. I walked out of Romanos that night carrying only my purse and dignity, leaving behind people who just revealed their true nature to an entire room of witnesses.